Good evening, everyone. At the moment, I live in the southern hemisphere, and it's winter. It's a bit cold out there, so I've got the heater on in my office here. Welcome to the people in the northern hemisphere. It's your summer over there, so hopefully it's nice and warm where you are. So I'd love to, thank you for joining us to this webinar 3. So I can't believe it. We've done 3 webinars at this sort of time, and I really, really hope that you sort of enjoying the content, that you're sort of really thinking about where you are in your life, where you want to go, and hopefully that using this live, you can get some tools, some tricks, some tips to get you to where you want to be. And then alternatively, I'm here, so you can always reach out to me, and I can sort of help you to sort of get there. So what are we sort of talking about tonight? All right. Well, we're talking about really the inner critical voice of how do we get that stupid inner critical voice that we sort of get. So that's mainly our sort of theme tonight. So let's sort of get on to it. So I use analogies a lot to make sort of something complex to be something simple. So I kind of sort of say to my clients that life is much like a conveyor belt where we move moment by moment in time. We get on at birth, and every moment we're just moving forward, and then obviously we get off at death. So what ends up happening is that we tend to go through our lives because it becomes the sum of our lives. But what happens is that life can throw us what I call a boulder that comes smack them right in the middle of our lives. Some sort of incident, some sort of trauma, some sort of even broken relationships, that sort of stuff. And what ends up happening is that these boulders do represent either our past traumas, our regrets, our unresolved issues, hurts from our turf, that is our significant people in our lives, right? And then so these boulders come in, and we've got to do something with them. Now, oftentimes in traditional sort of counselling, and I've got a kind of a quote from Dr. Adrienne Hines. She is a trauma and addiction research scientist at Stanford University, and she says that across all the different trauma healing approaches and strategies, the unified theme is that you have to go back to the trauma in some way, that you have to walk through it in order to get past it. Now, that is kind of traditional, right? And so ultimately, in some cases, processing trauma means, getting in touch with those trauma-related emotions, thoughts, and conclusions that we've drawn about ourselves and our world. It's supposed to allow yourself the space to investigate the trauma experience, like into your life story, grieve perhaps what you've lost, and move forward in some meaningful way. Okay. And I would actually like to think that perhaps I'm disrupting traditional therapy because, because we hear it all the time, and I was trained in it, so with a master of counselling, I was trained in it that you have to process stuff. But, I don't think we have to go back to them. Well, I believe very strongly that we don't have to go back to the past. Because every time we go back, it is my belief that you are just reliving it. And we relive and experience the hurt of the pain and the stress again and again and again. All right. And again, look, guys, I must do a disclaimer here that this works with that 80-20 rule, that 80% of people who do go back to the past and keep reliving it don't really need to, and they're doing themselves more harm than good. And the 20% of people who live with major traumas may need to utilize that prolonged therapy in order to address these past traumas. So again, the 80-20, I probably tend to be looking at those 80% of people who, don't necessarily need to go back to the past and yet do. And remember that. And here is why, and and I keep sort of saying this, so and until you get it, right, I'll probably keep saying it for a while, all right, is that number one, okay, every time we get triggered or we're in an incident that, that may traumatize, you will always feel it in your body first, because we then get the experience of the fight, flight, freeze, right? We get maybe, our muscles become tight. We may get sickness in the tummy. We might get, kind of a clamp on the chest where our heart rate increases, our breathing short and sharp, okay? Because we've got the adrenaline and cortisol right into the body. Now, here's the second thing, and this is why I don't think that we should go back and process stuff. Because here's number two, and here is us. And what we then tend to do is to think. Should have been, could have been, if only this, question this, rehearse stuff, and then past stuff. Okay? Every time we think, as in, okay, our body influences our thoughts. And then here is why this one here is more dangerous, and this is why I'm sort of talking about of not going back and processing stuff. Because our brains, okay, cannot tell the difference between what we imagine and reality. If we've imagined something, then it is real. Let's sort of say that, if you're in a partnership, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, you had the most doozy of a fight, a huge, big fight, right? Every subsequent arguments that you have, your mind goes back to relive that one big one. Now, if you had an argument today, then it didn't just happen today, okay? It didn't happen sort of 5 years ago. It's happened right now with all the associated emotions that we've attached to that incident, okay? And now we start to trigger ourselves. And this is what I believe processing does, is that every time you go back and relive something of the past or something of the trauma or just experience that were painful to you, you are reliving them and you are re-triggering ourselves. And we can be in this mind, body, okay? And for hours, days, weeks, and for some people, decades. I don't know whether you know someone in your world that may have had let's say a broken relationship in their 20s. They're in their 90s at the minute. And because it was really, really painful, they keep reliving, they keep telling you the story of their broken relationship. Because in retelling the story, it actually kills our ability to experience love, joy, and happiness. what will end up happening is that we will experience resentment, revengeful, bitter, cynic, really, really unhappy people. And my guess is that sort of someone who is doing that or who has experienced that, and they're really, really unhappy people, right? And this is because they keep reliving the past, okay? Whether that be the sort of inner critical voice that we have, that we sort of gain from that experience, or whether it's just the trauma itself, okay? All right, guys, is this making sense? Okay, is this making sense? Because this is huge, all right? This is killing us in our everyday, lives and so forth. But what ends up happening is that, we've got to let go of that past and release it. And I've got another analogy that I want to share with you. Share with you is, well, let me ask you a question. All right, let me ask you a question. Have you guys out there in the internet land or in the internet world, have you ever had a splinter? All right, hands up, or just nod if you've ever had a splinter. All right. So let me ask the question: what is the first thing that you do when you get a splinter? Right? Oftentimes we want to get it out, because we know that if we left it in there, right, one, it would hurt like the dickens. Two, right, it could get infected, and that infection could get into a bloodstream and really do a whole lot of damage, right? So we need to get it out. Well, the issue is, because of this here, if we keep reliving stuff, then we are holding on to our splinter. We're actually nurturing it, because every time we tell the story, we get sympathy, compassion, empathy. And so we keep holding on and nursing this sort of splinter or this trauma, because we get sort of some recognition of it. And we end up having as an identity as a splinter having person. That if we didn't have that, well, then who would listen to us, or who would take notice of us? Right? So, and this is what I mean by, that we're on this conveyor belt. And this jolly boulder that comes smack dab in the middle of it, often what we do, right, according to this, what we do is we then bend down, pick up the boulder, and we carry it. We go forward a few, sort of moments in time and so forth. And then another life will throw us another boulder. And then we pick that one up, and then we pick others up, and until we're living our life just weighed down with these boulders after boulders after boulders. And guys, this is killing us. It is killing us as a society, as a people, because we keep going back to the past, and we keep reliving all the traumas that we have, or all the incidents that have caused us pain. Okay. And we end up becoming, really, really unhappy, sort of people. And then we become into dysfunctional relationships. And guys, I'm telling you, you just don't have to. Guys, you just don't have to. Can you sort of see that? All right. And, look, if you've got any questions, if you've got any experiences, please email me. Oh, I didn't write my email, but it's info@metaneo.com.au. Just reach out. and will help you, because and I get it, guys, I get it, because I came from dysfunction, right? I came from major dysfunction. And one of the big things that I didn't do is, well, the two things that I didn't do. And one is, I didn't own it. When someone else did something to me that really, really hurt, it is their fault, not mine, because I was a child. So I didn't take on the shame or the guilt or anything like this. Fact X happened. So I get it. But I've been able to, even from major traumas, in my past, you can create an amazing life for yourself, and you can get into and have an amazing relationship, because that's what we did. But we needed some tools, some strategies and things like this to be able to work through all the stuff and through all my baggage to be able to create an amazing relationship. And we've been together 36 years that we've been together, and I just want to let you guys that you don't have to suffer. Sometimes all we need is some tools and some strategies, right? Because oftentimes, remember that it is not the incident per se. Again, the 80-20 rule, 80% is not the incident per se. 20% there is, but the 80%, it's the person, right, who is significant to us, who has the greatest ability to hurt us simply because they are significant. And what they say and how they treat us matters. It matters. And these significant people, and I've sort of talked about it before, obviously our birth family, friends, primary school kids, high school kids, even our work colleagues, for the time that we were in the work or that we were employed, what they say and how we are treated matters. And in this way, we start creating limiting beliefs, right, that we then hold on to them for the rest of our lives. And let me sort of tell you, guys, the past cannot be changed. You cannot change what happened to you. All you can change is the emotions that we've attached to that past incident. That is all we can change. And what we've got to do is to learn some tools and strategies to sever these emotions that we've attached to these past incidents and past hurts. And this, guys, this is where that stupid inner critical voice comes from. All right? And all those incidents, all those boulders that we've been dealing with on this conveyor belt, okay? All these have shaped our identity and how we see ourselves. We're either going to see ourselves positively or we're going to see ourselves negatively. And I don't know, again, whether I've sort of told you, but it seems to be that our brain's default always tends to go negative, right? Because let me sort of kind of give you an example of, if you were having a dinner party and you made, cupcakes, and 10 people tried these cupcakes, 9 sort of said, oh man, these are the most amazing cupcakes like I've ever tasted. And one person sort of says, oh, this is awful. This must be the worst that I've ever tasted. Which one will you remember? Which one will you remember? And because our brain's default is negative, it would be always the one that sort of said, this is awful. And then we come out with these bold universal statements. Well, that's it. I am never going to make cupcakes again because everybody hated it. Right? And yet only one person did and everyone else loved them. But we have these bold, sort of universal statements that we say. Guys, is this resonating with you? Am I just sort of say, sort of stuff? Because we'll always sort of get that, self-doubt and that self-negative talk simply because our brain, unless we change it, tends to move towards negative first and foremost, right? And what is that negative self-talk that we have? Well, this is an internal dialogue that we have that is often critical, self-limiting and harsh, because let me sort of tell you that we are more harder on ourselves than we are on any person on the planet. Any person on the planet. And this, this can manifest itself in various ways, such as self-doubt, self-criticism. We criticize ourselves. And we're always constantly comparing ourselves to others. And if we keep doing that, there are going to be, and this, there are going to be people who are always going to be that one step ahead of us. They're always going to be one ahead. And every time we keep comparing those, then we'll sort of then start to feel as if we're not good enough. We won't amount to anything, right? And that's where this inner critical voice comes from, that we kind of keep telling ourselves the stories, right? And we feed into this, all right, by what I call labels. We feed into this with labels. And it's one of the biggest things is I hate labels with a passion. Because oftentimes when you label it, you label someone or something, then it starts to become about, about our identity. It starts to infect or to affect our identity. And these patterns usually include statements like, I am, or I don't, I can't, I have, I will, or I always. But usually it's I am, I don't, I can't. Okay? And with these labels, can have a huge effect on us. And I had heard a story of this guy who was had felt he had an alcohol problem. And so he took himself off to rehab. And as he was working with me, he kept sort of saying, I'm an alcoholic, I'm an alcoholic, I'm an alcoholic. And I kind of looked at him and I said, you know what, mate, you are not and have never been an alcoholic. And it's like, what? Of course I have. And I said, you were never born one. What you have is an alcoholic addiction. It's not who you are. Guys, can you get that? People sort of say, I'm anxious, I'm depressed. And when you put that label, it means we set that in stone and it can't be changed. This is who I am. Done. And then we live our lives as if that's our reality. But if you changed it, and guys, it's just a little change. If you change it to be, I have depression or I have anxiety, now we can fix the anxiety, we can fix the depression because it's not who you are. It's not who you are. Can you sort of see that? Right? Can you see that? And it's these labels, and we do it, if you're a parent, as a parent, we do it with our kids, except for we say you are, or we say it to other people. You are a loser. You are dumb. You are stupid. And every time we do the you are on someone, you are attacking their identity and how they see themselves. And because you are an authoritarian person, a parent, then we take that on board as if it's our reality. Oh, I guess I am dumb, or I guess I am stupid. All right? And that's where we need to change it, because it's not about who, it's not about who we are. It's about the behavior of what we do. So then it should be, your decision to do X was dumb. Your choice to do this was stupid. Fix the decision, fix the choices, because that's not who you are. All right? Are we getting this? Okay. Look, if you're in the chat, I can't sort of see many chats. Yeah, very much so. All right. Because our identity is that we live out of our identity. We live out of our identity. And so I came up with, looked on the internet and came up with a definition of what our identity is. So our identity is a unique set of characteristics that can be used to identify a person as themselves and no one else. The word can be used in different ways, in different contexts. So on a personal level, identity often refers to a person's sense of self, meaning how they view themselves as compared to other people. That's what our identity is. That's what makes us who we are. Right? And sometimes this identity, especially if we're, mum or dad, especially if we're in a relationship, our identity can be assumed by, I'm just a mum, or I'm just a dad, or I'm just a partner, or someone's wife, or someone's husband. But you are your own person, and having that strong sense of me is huge. Okay, is huge. So what are some of these I am statements that we sort of give? So again, it's, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I'm not worthy of happiness, I am unlovable, I'm bad, I'm stupid, I'm dumb, I'm worthless, I'm a loser, I'm a failure, I'm weak, I'm not good enough, I'm boring, I'm crazy, I'm unstable, I'm unwanted, I'm invisible, I'm a mistake, I'm helpless, I'm ugly, I'm different, and then I'm an alcoholic or I'm a drug addict. And guys, when we label ourselves like this, it becomes our reality. And we set it in stone by sort of saying, you know what, this is who I am. I can't change it. And when you do that, we can feel hopeless. We can feel as if we can't control our lives. We've got no control over of the future that we want for ourselves. So we just, I suppose, Jen, just live with it, getting emotionally worse and worse and worse. All right? Are you hearing me here? Okay. Because what is happening with this kind of self-talk, this inner critical voice, okay? Now, I am just also a disclaimer, I am not a drawer. I cannot draw for nuts. And maybe that's also a self-limiting belief. I don't know. I'll leave that to you. All right. But let's say we draw a brain like this. All right. And what happens, okay? What happens is that we get a neurological pathway that is what I call our trench. And this pathway is all this negative stuff that we keep telling ourselves. All this negative stuff that I'm not good enough, that list that I just did, I'm not worthy. Why is this happening to me? I don't deserve love. I don't deserve whatever. Okay. That we have this neurological pathway. And the thing is that if we feed it, right, if we give him think time, this pathway, think time, then what's he going to do? And if you think of, if we're feeding into it, what's he going to do? Well, he's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger until he's all consuming. And that's all we can think about. Okay. And that's why we get into this mind, body sort of thing 24/7. Okay. Because we get into this pathway, this neurological pathway. Well, some people then sort of says, we've got to process this stuff. We just talked about that, right? Is that if you're processing it, you're giving it think time. You're now feeding it and it's getting bigger and you're going up and down the trench, right? What we need to do is change the pathway and create a new pathway. So how do we do this? Okay, how do we create a new pathway? Well, we begin identifying these negative self-talk patterns, okay? Because you've got to develop self-awareness of what is it that I'm saying to myself? What are the stories that I'm saying to? What are the emotions? Am I using the I am statements? Once you've identified these negative self-talk patterns, we've got to challenge them. We've got to challenge them by asking us, again, my two questions, all right? With two questions done in a different way. Is it true? Is it valid? Okay. Is it true? Is it valid? Okay. Or is this thought based on facts or simply a self-limiting belief? Is it true? Is it valid? Is it a fact or is it a self-limiting belief? And these patterns are often rooted in unfounded assumptions, past experiences that really no longer hold true. And by questioning their accuracy, we can begin to break free from their grip. When you begin to question their accuracy, you begin to break free from their grip because we're no longer giving him think time. Right? And as we no longer give him think time, then we're taking fuel away from his fire until that neurological pathway will get smaller, until it's just a pinprick right at the back here. Okay? Waiting to pounce and get you back. And we get to a point that at one time, because we've changed the neurological pathway, we can actually sever the connection. And we'll stop feeding into this and it will stop becoming an issue because we've changed the pathway, okay, to what we do want to think about. And so how do we refine this identity? because we then focus on the qualities that we do want to embody. Okay. So, one of the things is that you start to sort of, I suppose, think about, you as a person, your characteristics, because it's not, guys, it's not enough to say, puppies and rainbows. It's not enough to literally put positive things, because when we start to get into here, then we go down the rabbit hole. We go to the rabbit hole of the thinking. Why am I doing this? How can I do this? If I'm not good enough, what's happened? What have I done? Why am I unworthy? And we just keep going down the rabbit hole of these thoughts. So sort of saying, think positive thoughts, puppies and rainbows. It's not going to cut it, guys. It's not going to cut it. You've got to change the pathway, but then go down the pathway, down the rabbit hole of all the stuff that you do want. And so we change it to perhaps, our characteristics of literally who you are. And so, what would be some of the characteristics? So let me ask yourself the question, right, of who, what is it, or what characteristics that you most like about you? What is it that you most like about you? Think about that for a minute. Write it down if you need to. Then maybe another question, the person who most raised you, who you value, what would they say about you? Right? What would they say about you? Write them down, or just think about them. And eventually, please write them down. And then the third question is your work colleague, your friends, your work colleagues. What would they say about you? Why do they love working with you? Why are you friends with the friends that you have? What is it about your personality, your character, that they value enough to, be your best friend? You can claim these. And when you claim them, then every time you start to get think time here, okay? Every time you start to get think time, you're thinking, oh, no, because you'll feel it in your body first. Remember, you'll feel it in your body. The second you feel it and you start to think, no, not today, you're not. And you pick up one of these, and maybe it could be that I'm loyal. You might sort of say to yourself that you're loyal. And so you go down the rabbit hole of that. How have I been loyal? In all my life, how have I been loyal? What happened? How did it happen? Who did I help? What was the result? All this sort of stuff. That you then go down the rabbit hole of who you are. Because when we're stuck in this pathway, we're not thinking about who we are. We think we are the worst person on the planet. And not. You're probably one of the most beautiful persons on the planet. But we don't see ourselves that way. We just don't see ourselves that way. And guys, if you keep doing this, if it becomes your habit, then this here, because you're not feeding into it, will get less and less and less and less. And this one here will get bigger and bigger and bigger. And you'll start to live who you are, because that becomes your focus. And the more that you focus on something, the more you become. And if you focus on all the good stuff of your personality, your character, then you'll eventually become that person. And guys, you'll be friggin' amazing, right? You will be amazing, and you'll be able to have the most amazing life that you can have. Okay? Guys, what do you think? Okay? So if you catch yourself sort of thinking, I'll never be as successful as my colleague, how about we replace it with, I am unique and I have my own path to success. Because your success and what you think their success is could be totally different. Okay? Could be totally different. So guys, that's kind of, I suppose that's kind of it in terms of, your inner critical voice. Again, if you have questions, email me, at info@metaneo.com.au. I'll be happy to answer any questions, that type of thing, which is cool. But I'm just writing an article. I suppose I'm just writing an article, and was asked perhaps what is the 5 keys to a happy relationship or a happy relationship. So are you guys wanting to know what my 5 keys are? Right? Yeah, you'd like that? Okay. So here's my 5 keys to a happy, long-lasting marriage. Okay. And one of them is, and I think I said this in the last couple of sort of sessions, but relationships, guys, are always about an invitation. Always about an invitation. Oftentimes we may get into a relationship where once they've agreed, then we feel that it's our right, that somehow we own them. And yeah. And oftentimes that can play out in what we sort of say and how we introduce our partners or even our kids. And if you keep saying, we had someone who came over to our place one night for a meal, and he talked about his wife the whole night. He was like, literally, you could see he was very, very proud of her. But every time he was telling stories, he was saying, my wife done this, and my wife does this, and my wife does something else. And to this day, I have no idea what the wife's name is. And when you say my husband, my wife, or even my kids, that kind of donates ownership of I own you, and it is my right to request anything from you. So I challenge you, one, say it first. Every time I introduce David, it's always, this is my husband David, and then it's David did this, David did this, David does something, because he is his own person. He's not an extension of me. He's his own person. So we should, right, rather than sort of thinking it's our right, we should feel it a privilege that you, amazing you, would agree to share your life with me. And when we sort of deem it a privilege, then just maybe we will treat our partner a little better and will not take them for granted. So that's number 1, is relationship is always about an invitation. All right. The second one is the 4 T's to keep the romance alive and the spark sparking. And the 4 T's, because we didn't love one another when we first met. We just didn't. We had the attraction that gave us the courage to get their contact details, and then we went on dates and so forth. So here's my 4 T's. Is that we spend time together, quality time, not just 2 people in the same room. We talk, have deeper, meaningful conversations. We touch, we hug, we kiss, we hold on hands, and we become a team. And a team is the two of you together sharing your life, going in the same direction, helping and supporting one another. All right. So that's number 2, my 4 T's: time, talk, touch, and being a team. Okay. Now, number 3. Okay. And this is a good one. It is, and David actually coined this phrase, and so we've been using it as our family motto ever since, is don't whinge, find solutions. And we did this for everything, kids, everything. Don't whinge, find solutions. Because complaining is easy, but it doesn't lead anywhere productive. Instead, focus on finding solutions and an agreed plan of action to resolve the issues. And with everyone is different. Every person is different. So we could be in a relationship, so it could be friendships, it could be even colleagues at work, it could be anything or anyone that we have a relationship with, is that we are different to them. We think differently. We feel differently. Okay, we've experienced different things, and because of that, it's almost like we're opposite. And when you're opposite, you have to find solutions that work for both of you. You have to. Otherwise, we're just going to be butting heads all the time simply because we're different. And the difference, it's not someone's right and someone's wrong. No, it's just we're different. And we've got to come up with a solution. Okay, so number 3, don't whinge, find solutions. And number 4, okay, 4 is, in order to have an amazing we, you need a strong sense of me. You need a strong sense of me. Only, in a great relationship, again, whether it's romantic, whether it's colleagues, whether it's anyone else, it is to get a balance of your togetherness and your individuality, okay? Because we can celebrate the we, but we don't have to lose sight of the me. And if that is so the case, then both partners should feel valued as individuals while nurturing their shared identity as a we, okay? And this is where we have a lot of fights, is because we get into a relationship where we've got that inner critical voice happening. We've got that, feeling of we're not good enough and we're not worthy enough. And so we kind of get into a relationship, with that in mind, in the hopes that our partners will fulfill those needs. You, partner, need to validate me. You need to praise me. You need to make me feel good about myself. And that will never happen. It is a role that they can never fulfill. We have to be complete within our own self, okay? And the last one, okay, the last key, right, is that we should have fun. Guys, we've got to have, relationships should be about fun and enjoyment. Right? If you are not having fun in your relationship, then for pity's sake, please get help. Right? Because I have an alternative to getting a divorce. Right? I have the alternative to getting a divorce. Get help if you're not having fun. And it should be fun, because laughter, joy, play are the glue that keeps our relationships strong and happy. And why would you not? All right? Why would you not? So making time for playfulness, shared adventures, big or small, guys, means that, your life, should be amazing together. Okay. So there are my 5 keys to a happy, lasting marriage. Now, there could be more keys, but those 5 are the ones that I think they're pretty cool. What do you think? Again, text me, email, DM me, direct message me, and let me know what you sort of think. Okay. Now it's sort of come to the sort of time, guys, that I can really, really help you. And look, if you are tired and if you have fed up and had enough of reliving the past hurts, and you are ready to let go of your boulders and start to build a new sense of me, then look, I invite you. And again, it's always an invitation. Schedule a session with me now. Schedule a session with me. My focus is here to support you, to have the life that you could have, but you need some tools and strategies with which to do that. So we'll tackle challenges. We'll enhance your connection. We'll build a joyful, happy relationship, or build a happy, joyful, healthy me, whichever one. And again, guys, if you are not struggling within your relationship at the moment, hey, that is great. It's amazing. And, I wish you well. But it doesn't mean that I'm not relevant to you. Because, when you're well, this is when the perfect time almost, right, before you go down the path, the perfect time to just, get the foundations of your relationship to going forward, so that you don't experience all the pain and suffering of people who are going to a pathway to, separation or divorce, right? You don't want that. And it could just bring some spark back into your relationship and to have, and to have the fun. So again, I have, my 2 programs. So the Loving Me program is for the individual person who wants to improve themselves and to improve the direction of their life and where they want to go. Gaining information that will prevent issues from happening, will save you a lot of angst and emotional pain in the future, right? So the Loving Me program. And then the Loving We program is for couples who really want to, sort of save their relationship, who want to fix it, improve it, to take it to a new level, whatever it is, all right? Then, I encourage you to reach out, contact me. I'd be happy, if you and your partner to answer, if you have any questions, to answer them, to see if I'm a right fit for you. I offer a 30-minute free phone call to ascertain that. Or if you sort of, like what I'm sort of saying here on these lives, and please go back if you haven't sort of seen the other 2, go back. I've got it on YouTube. I've got it on my Sue Geelan LinkedIn, and also on Facebook. So they're going live for there. So, any one of those you can actually have a look at. And if you enjoy that, then, hey, book directly with me for your first session. And, for the first session is, usually my first session is, guys, we've got to stop the fighting. We have to stop the fighting. And for some people, you say, well, we don't fight. We don't yell and scream. No, you don't. Or you may not. But you would be shutting down. And shutting down is probably infinitely worse than the yelling and screaming, because now we're holding on to it and we're just getting more resentful as time goes on. So, we've got to stop the fighting. We've got to be able to resolve issues. I've got a 3-step process and a tool that if you do get angry, at 100%, you literally can get down to 0 in less than 5 minutes. Okay. That's gold. That first session would be gold for anybody, either as an individual or as a couple. Because you're going to have conflict with people. Again, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's your friends, whether it's in a romantic relationship, as a partnership, even your kids, even clients yelling and screaming down the phone. We get triggered, and you've got to be able to know how to, like it says, don't whinge, find solutions. Okay. So book with me through metaneo.com.au/book-online. So I might actually kind of put that up as in it's metaneo.com.au/book-online. Okay. And yeah, let me help you on your journey to amazing. Next week, the webinar 4 live 4. If we're going to build a new, me, a sense of me, and a new relationship, then you've got to have some strong foundations that with which to build your life and build your relationship. So that's kind of next week. So stay tuned for that. Again, if you've got any questions, if you've got topics that you would like me to explore on these lives, then yeah, please reach out. And all that is left, we've come to the end. So I hope you enjoyed your hour with me. Thank you so much. It means a lot to me that you would take an hour out of your Sunday night to listen to me and spend this time with me, and I really, really appreciate that. So all that's left to sort of say is, guys, live your life by your design and find freedom inside your relationship. Good night to everyone and have a great week. Bye now.